Okay, here they coming in. Okay. Ina alhamdulillah. Wa salam ala wa rasulullah. I'd like to welcome everybody to our World News in Review with Brother Yusuf Zucovsky. We're back, we're back, and we're live now. Okay, so we're gonna switch platforms, and inshallah, he's here, and I'm gonna turn it over to him now. And again, remember, if there's any questions you guys have, any comments, you can type them on the screen, or you can feel free to join the Zoom room and use the microphone. We're here. And yes, anything you like to talk about, feel free to type it or join the Zoom room. With no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Brother Yusuf. Go ahead, Brother Yusuf, and welcome back.
Thank you, Sister Jazakallah Khair. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Yeah, we'll do a lot of questions today because we didn't get around to it. Last week we spent the whole time with immigration debate, we're going to go and cover a little bit briefly about that. Then we're going to get to the clown show that's going on in Iran. And for those of you who followed me, it's almost exactly like I said it was going to be. It's been a massive money-making opportunity, a massive screen. We'll get to that here in a minute. So we were talking last week, and as always, when you go through these political immigration, debates, there gets to be, some disagreements, obviously on the points. Some people may misunderstand. It's a very emotional, issue, and by design, of course. This government has made no ifs, ands, or buts that they are going to continue to allow this lawlessness. And I just wanted to bring again a couple more statistics. Then we're going to go back and look at a little bit more of Zohran Mamdani news for the week, because 95% of Muslims voted for this man. Again, I cannot emphasize that enough. That's why I cover it here, because we're about healing, we're about education, we're about waking people up. And apparently 95% of people are dead as a doorknob, asleep, brainwashed sheep, or just hardened racists. And we'll go again to that issue here again. So let's just look again at what some of these illegals I was talking about. Now, according to ICE official statistics, there's 662,000 undetained. These are people who have not been arrested, undetained illegal aliens residing in this country who have criminal records, some with significant, felonies, including violent crime, assault. If you want to go and look at the states with the most amount of crime, California being number one, California is the home. It's the home base, basically, for this. I mean, California is where this originated from. I mean, California was the first state to be fully overrun. I mean, California has zero law and order in any aspect of that society. California is number one. You see Texas, you see New York, you see Florida, you see these places. Michigan now is pretty big for them as well. Ohio, but they're really those four, big states, California, Texas, Florida, and New York, are just flooded with these people. And we're talking about 662,000. This is who ICE knows. They have names of these individuals. They're on the wanted list. They're trying to hunt them down. And it gets even worse when it comes to where our tax money is going. Besides our tax money going to Israel, lots of it, billions of dollars a year, our tax money going to fraudulent groups like NASA, these phony World Aid projects. We spend $8,776 annually, basically per illegal, pretty much in this country for services for these people and their children. I believe that number is low. That's the official, statistics. We're just going to go with that as the worst case scenario or best case, depending on how you want to look at it. But these people are draining it, and they're draining our resources, and they're bringing tribalism. And where America was starting to racially heal in the 1990s, when I was growing up, a lot of these issues were starting to get, it really wasn't a thing. I mean, people got along. I mean, there was still always racism. There was always discrimination. But we were seeing healing going on here. In the early 2000s, it was still quite a good time. But once you started getting these numbers going up, you were seeing the tribalism on steroids, at this point. And I talked about this last week, how it's permeating our masjids. It's permeating the Muslim thought. Because, again, the Muslims in New York, 95%, they had no problem voting for a man who is openly talking about discriminating against a certain demographic group. 95%. They had no issues. And you go to these people's societies where a lot of these people come from, when you break down the demographics, they come from the Middle East, North Africa countries. They're coming from places like Jordan, like Syria, like Egypt, like Algeria, like Morocco. And if you go to any one of their countries as an American and think you are going to be treated equally, you got another thing coming. And if they get offended, that's just the reality. They know it's the reality. Try to go buy property in these countries. Try to have a fair shake for employment in these countries, much less try to go there and get free money from the taxpayers of these nations. That is not going to happen at all. But then when they come in here, they start demanding that we do these things for them. If we don't, we get called names. We're racist. We're not inclusive. It's a scam. It's a racket, obviously. And they collectively had no problem, voting for Zohran Mamdani. And this, again, the reason I'm raising this is because it's a big problem for the Ummah. It is really going to cause a lot of division down the line as you're going to start to see just everything breaking apart and balkanized. We're already seeing it, in our masjid. And just to show again some of Zohran Mamdani's stuff, this past week we had New York is becoming lawless. They have cash bail. I've talked about on this before, where guys are getting arrested 30, 40, 50 times, violent crimes at that. There's guys now going around New York. You can see this all over Twitter, and they're just punching women in the face, and nothing is happening to them. They're trying to push people in train tracks and all these things. I mean, it's just horrendous what's going on there. And nothing is done. And if they get arrested, there's no cash bail. So they're just going to get right out in most cases and go do it again. Why wouldn't they? If these are always the type of people they are, this is what's in their soul, they're just going to go repeat and do it again. So there was a maniac going around stabbing people, on the subway. And what does Zohran Mamdani do? Does he come out and applaud the police officers who shot this animal dead? No. He says he wants to make sure there's an investigation into should the police have actually used violent force. A man who's trying to attempted to murder 3 and maybe more, people had no morals to make such a decision. And this clown animal is up there talking about checking out the police that they may have used unnecessary force. This week, we had just a couple days ago, we had a black teenager, 15 years old, at the basketball court, assaulted, beaten, bullied basically by a mob, and then they shot him in the stomach. Where's Zohran Mamdani on this? Zohran Mamdani doesn't care, about black people, about African-American people, if it's not something he can do to stick it to the whites of New York, which we talked about last week. He has no care, at all about this senseless violence that happened to this innocent boy who was doing nothing but trying to play in a public park, had no criminal record, nothing wrong with this individual, just being bullied by gangs of, kids probably with no father in the home. Where's Zohran Mamdani on this? Nothing at all. Nothing on this lawlessness. He's sitting there going around on his racial tirades, trying to blame a demographic of people who had absolutely nothing, to do with these crimes. Now he's announcing, again, and we talked about this too, that his government stores and what a scam this was going to be, where he already showed his hand, here early. Zohran Mamdani said it's going to cost $30 million in taxpayer money to build this store. Now, those of us who've lived abroad, this stuff is obvious what it is. This is just stealing. This goes on all the time. Every country I visited or lived in the Middle East, North Africa region, we found this stuff going on with frequency. They would basically get a project of $1 billion from the government, and they would end up pocketing half, and then it goes down the chain. It keeps getting pocketed and pocketed and pocketed. And then when the project's finally going to commence, there's like, $50,000 left. So to buy a grocery store building, a building of representative of Food Lion, we have it in America, or a Kroger, you're talking about between 10 to 15 million for a brand new building. Now, any of us who've been to New York City know that New York City does not have space like that. They build their grocery stores into the context of the streets. So they're even smaller, about an average of $2 to $3 million to purchase one of those. So this is a pure racket here. He's stealing the taxpayers' money, giving it to his buddies. And of course, this store is going to be overpriced, as everything else with government. Money laundering, crazy. And we know the scam. And Zohran Mamdani was recently talking about taxing the people who have expensive homes, who live out of state. And Zohran Mamdani's got $40 million in India that will not be touched by the U.S. government in his personal family. This is, again, why you can never allow dual citizens to hold public office in any nation, much less ours. because there's dual allegiances. There's all these, scapegoats he can use, all these tactics he can use, exit strategies. If he gets busted for corruption, he'll just go back home and nothing will happen to him. So he has no problem he's against the rich. That's what the sheep out there believe. Oh, he's getting those rich guys. He's getting them. He's got 40 million. And this guy's not poor, by any means. And you're never going to see any Muslim influencer or social commentator say a peep about this guy. I've only seen one. An obscure guy questioned his Islam. Well, I mean, his lack of Islam, you should say. But other than that, you'll see none of them calling this guy out for the fraud that he is. Because you don't understand basic economics. If you tax the wealthy create job opportunities. Wealthy start moving out. Who are you going to tax? Everybody who's got money is gone. So you're going to destroy the middle class. Then you're going to make everybody poor and dependent. But then they're dependent on who? Where's the money going to come from? You're seeing this in California. The taxes in California, they never stop. They're always finding something else that they're going to tax that too. Wow. Because California has to keep paying for this lawlessness. And they're driving people out. California is going to lose electoral college points in the coming up election because they've lost so many people. And they're still allowing them to count the illegals. If they didn't allow them to count the illegals, it'd go way down because all the quality, good people are leaving California. They can't afford it. They're not going to continue to see their money taken to fund stuff like this. And they moved to places like Idaho and Arizona and Nevada. And now those places are also turning blue as well. So you're going to see this kind of endless migration. But again, 95%, I cannot emphasize it enough, of the Muslims voted for this guy. And again, race-based policies seem to be no problem for the Ummah who lives in New York. They have no problem with that. They have no problem with no punishment for crime, violating the tenets of the Sharia. They have no problem with this. And it matters nothing to them. All that matters to them is that they get more of a cut, in the end of the day. And it's very disturbing of the present state of Muslims. And Sister Layla's on this platform, myself, all the time, talking about the Aqidah, the lack of morals, the degeneracy that is entering the Muslim community. And this is just, again, another example of that. You have this clown, Sneeko, going around. He got punched in the face this week in New York, ironically. Now, he didn't press charges. It could have been staged. But this is the same Sneeko that just 2 weeks ago, he was with a group of Muslim youth, all probably from 18 to 22, and he was singing a song about killing Jews. So, of course, the mainstream media is going to run with that. They're going to show that everywhere. And I have bad news for the brothers who are taking part in this. Sneeko's a puppet. He's controlled. Sneeko can say whatever he wants on camera. They're not coming after him because he's doing exactly what they want him to do. They're going to come after you. You're going to come out there and say these things. They're going to find out who you are, get you fired from your job, ruin your quality of life, possibly charge you for a hate crime, and all these things. Sneeko can say whatever he wants because he works for them. At the end of the day, they're going to let him get away with it. But you're not going to be able to do that. He's out there, again, misrepresenting us, trying to make us look bad. And it just goes on and on. And this narrative here of Zohar Mamdani is another one of the ammo. Muslims are bad. Look what Muslims vote for. Look what Muslims are. They want to have a socialist. They want to go after white people. They want to be, biased towards one ethnic group. And it's, again, Islam is for everyone. It's demonstrated by our demographics globally. But this is, again, the narrative that they're winning. I mean, they are winning because the people we have in front of the camera, more times than not, work for them and are perpetuating this stuff. Just go look at all of your I've highlighted several of your social media Muslim influencers and all the destructive stuff that they talk about. And I wanted to kind of just close on last week, and we'll open up for questions. I'm sure people want to talk about Iran. We got a lot to talk about there. The money making that has gone on with this, as I talked about here a few weeks ago. I had an off-camera discussion with a sister last week, and I was explaining to her the way the market works and what they're doing. Because what they want you to do is they create a bang over here. They create a noise. Wait a minute, what's happening over here? So while you're all focusing your attention over here something else is going on. And that's exactly what this war appears to have been. Trump's motives and agenda is very clear now at this point. I mean, the United States has secured the Strait of Hormuz. They have complete control of it. They put Iran in a worse position than they were in before. Military is there. Trump has gotten everything that he wants. You've seen during this crisis, the markets doing this, then down, then this, then down. Billions of dollars have been made off of this because of shorting and longing, which a lot of you probably are not familiar with how corrupt this, stock market asset system is. But people oftentimes, oh, stocks are high. How could people be losing money? Well, people lose money because of what we call fear of missing out, FOMO, FOMOing in. So what happens typically is something like this goes on. The market's at the bottom. Everybody's going, oh my God, World War III. All the Muslim influencers, by the way, we have Muslim influencers that were even saying Iran was winning. I mean, I'm not going to name their names. I don't want to give them views. But they were saying, oh, this is going to be a disaster for Trump. Iran is winning. All these is complete rubbish. You see all the mainstream pundits are saying the same exact thing. So what is happening? People are saying, oh my God, I bought my stock for 30. Now it's worth 25. Next week, it might be worth 15. I'm going to sell for a loss, and they're going to lose money. Then what's going to happen is all these guys who know what's going to be the news tomorrow before it's released, they're going to come swoop right in. They're going to buy all that asset for $25. Then the news is going to come. It's going to go up to $35, $40. Now, if you bought millions of dollars of that, you can just do the math. If you made 10 to 15 for every 5 million you spend, it's this massive amount of money here. And it works the same the other way. So the stock is climbing. There's news of peace. Stocks are rising. So the FOMO, fear of missing out, the mainstream media will then come in and they'll say, oh man, stocks are going to go through the roof. The president's done it. He's got a peace deal. And then the guy on the couch who probably sold already for a loss is sitting there going, oh man, this is going to go 20 to 30 more. I've got to get in there. He's going to start buying. Then those guys that bought the stocks down here at the 25, they're going to dump on him. They're all going to sell simultaneously. It's going to start plummeting, and the cycle just keeps repeating. And people fall for it time and time again. And I was trying to give the advice I buy when the media and the Muslim influencers and all the other people were saying World War III. They're saying this is it. We're having COVID 2.0. The inflation is going to be crazy. You're not going to be able to afford gas. People are saying $20 and just outrageous numbers. That's when I buy because I know the game. And I want all you to know the game because you can basically do very well for yourself through investing if you know the game. If you're a long-term investor, you hold. You know what's going to happen. I held all my stuff and I accumulated more when it was low. So I'm in profit in everything that I have pretty much because of knowing this game. And it's just back and forth. And over the last month, that's all it's been. It's like 3 or 4 days of negative news, boom, then back down, then up again. And now today it was majorly up. And a lot of people made a lot of money today. In fact, the oil prices plummeted on the latest news. And we had people doing what they call shorting. There was billions of dollars in these that were made 30 minutes before Trump made the announcement. They bet on oil to fail. And they made billions, doing it, just like they bet on oil to rise before this thing got going. That's the game. And they're stealing money from the middle class, the upper middle classes. And then what I call that kind of wealthy group, they're not rich, but they're certainly doing well. Those people who have that 500,000 to 1 million income, the elite really want them more than they want the poor. They know the poor don't have a lot of money. Poor guys investing hundreds of dollars, $200 here and there. They want those guys. They want them out of that category and bring them down into the middle to lower levels. And they keep raping their investments with things like this. This is what Zoran Mamdani is doing. He's going after those people. The billionaires are always going to get out of this. They got the best lawyers. They got the best knowledge, the best means. They know all the loopholes. They don't ever suffer any of this. They're killing that group from 500,000 to upper 1 to 2 million and wiping them out. That's always the game with these people. And every time you see this, that's exactly what they're doing. The United States has been fighting these wars with technology from the 1970s, the 1980s, some early 90s. I mean, the good stuff is still sitting in the warehouse and will be used in 2040, 2050. The stuff that's good now. You cannot compete militarily with a country that has been able to print money endlessly because of a petrodollar for the last 40 to 50 years. We have unlimited funding. We can bring the best, scientists, the best engineers, the best developers. We have an unlimited budget to spend on these things. Other countries have no shot. militarily against the United States. And for these Muslim influencers and these pundits to come out here and say Iran was winning and they were going to win this war and the tide was turning and all, it's laughable. And as I just highlighted, it was all one big, massive game. And billions of dollars of wealth was transferred over the last month. And I'm not saying it's over yet. We may have news on Tuesday or Wednesday. Of course, you're going to have people longing the market. Then the bad news will come out and they'll make a killing all over again, rinse and repeat. So no boots on the ground, no invasion, none of this stuff appears to be pretty much settled. They got what they wanted out of it. Petrodollar dominance is still in place. And you're going to see the gas most likely is going to start to come down. Again, like I said, maybe it goes back up for a while, but overall, you're going to see the trending down again. And the money's been made. And they won, as they often do, because they're way ahead of the public. They're way ahead of the people in the way they know the world and the way they see things. So any questions, comments? We'll open for discussion. Just wanted to kind of highlight those issues before we got started with Q&A.
So, panel, brother, since you was highlighting on that, look at what's going on this week with Trump arguing with the Pope. Got himself pretending to be some type of spiritual something. Oh my gosh. These freaks are having a ball. They're having a ball.
Yeah, he said that was a doctor photo, like that he was being a doctor. That's clearly not a doctor. He knew what he was doing. Crazy. They're trying to Jesus healing people, healing a sick American nation was what the kind of the meme was there.
Yeah. At the end, it's like, now this is how we're ending our things with Iran, to showing you how great I am. This happened. I started it and I'm stopping it. It's just crazy. Crazy. Anyway,
I said on here before that politics was pro wrestling. And literally, for those of you who had ever followed pro wrestling, Donald Trump was literally involved in pro wrestling not too long ago. About 2007, Donald Trump was in a WWE ring at WrestleMania. Donald Trump was cutting, as we call it in the wrestling business, promos. Donald Trump was doing promos, which is basically almost identical to how he talks now. He loves hearing himself talk. He loves praising himself. He loves taking credit for everything under the sun. I mean, he is a consummate salesman. And his response to the backlash that he faced from this photo was priceless. No, I was a doctor there. No, come on. You knew what you were doing. It was as clear as day. You were trying to depict yourself as we call it Christ-like in Western terminology, a Christ-like figure, a healer of the divine. So questions, guys?
SubhanAllah. I had from last week, I kind of saw something relating to Google being fined $3.5 million for unused accounts, abusing those. You know anything about that?
No, I have not. But with Google, it's not surprising with bots. And if that's what you're referring to, bots rule the internet now. It's all about swaying public opinion.
SubhanAllah. What do you think about AI 10 years from now taking over for humans?
Well, yet Elon Musk, very good question. I was reading about this today on my lunch break in the office and talking to some of my coworkers. Elon Musk had been tweeting about this universal basic income. And the elite want to sell you this image that the AI is going to liberate humanity, that it's going to make us all have such an abundance, that we can sit around and make music and wear nice clothes and go to the beach and watch the deer run in the woods and all the great fantasy, right? Now, that would be in an ideal world. You could say that we'd be to focus on our spirituality, our connection with the law. We'd be able to live freer lives away from the shackles of corporate work. But obviously, with these people controlling it, that's not the case. At the end of the day, universal basic income, they've already kind of tipped their hat on this one. You are going to see carbon stuff attached to this. So they're going to say your carbon footprint, so you're not allowed to eat but a certain amount of meat because it's all going to be digital on a blockchain. So you're going to have a certain amount you could spend on red meat. You'll have a certain amount you can spend on eggs. You're going to have a certain amount you can spend on chicken or whatever, because your carbon footprint cannot exceed too much. So if you go back and you look at history, particularly European history, the elite always ate the dairy and the meat. And they had the population eating the leaves, the spinach, the cabbage, the roots, the potatoes, and things like this. The elite then at the time when American migration started happening, things started changing. Populations, because of advanced agriculture, started getting access to meat for the first time, to eat meat regularly. And we've seen that IQs have gone up, intelligence has increased. We're seeing people were healthier, they were living longer. And then what they did was they flipped the psychology on that and started telling you that the plants were healthy. I'm on a carnivore diet right now, which means I only eat cheese, red meat, chicken, particularly chicken thighs that have fat on them. Basically all halal, of course. And I've never felt better. My brain feels sharper. I have less brain fog. As you get older, that starts to happen a little bit more. I have more energy levels. And they're pitching this vegetarian veganism as if this is somehow healthy, and eating a lot of rice and potatoes and things. And I can do a whole class on this about the way the body turns this stuff into sugar and how it's affecting our mind, our health, dementia, and all kinds of things like that. But what they're going to do, again, with that universal basic income, is they're going to steer you by force away from eating the things they don't want you to eat. And it reminds me of a quote from one of the Rockefellers, for Nelson, I believe, the one that was around in the early 1900s. He had stated, and I'm paraphrasing here, that what they were going to do was going to change the population so much that the differences on a genetic level between them and us, we wouldn't recognize it as the same species. And this was before they changed medicine and they started putting in the seed oils and all the other poisonous things they put in our foods. We see so many people are overweight now. I mean, you have people who are active and are still overweight because of all the processed foods and all the poisons, all the chemicals they put in us with the vaccines, the plastics, that they're changing us and they're dumbing us down in so many ways. They're ruining our health. And I think that this stuff is just going to lead to that, this universal basic income. They're literally going to control what goes in your body, what you're allowed to eat. You're going to have to receive mandatory vaccinations to keep your credits. It's kind of what they were doing with COVID, again, with a test run. They were saying that they wanted to tie all your data to that vaccine card. You couldn't take public transportation without taking the COVID shots. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't work in parts of Europe. I mean, it was scary times, and they were just kind of testing to see how the public was going to react to that. And of course, the people didn't do really anything. So now they know they pretty much have most of us where they want them, and they're going to just comply with this. So I think it's scary times ahead when you're starting to see more and more AI. The first people who are going to get hit are your data entry. I call them Excel sheet populators. We have a lot of them in our company that their job just typically is to populate Excel sheets. They don't have a physical presence in the working environment. They're not a leader. They're just kind of redundant people, sales people. You're going to see that fall first. You're going to start seeing educators. I mean, we're already seeing it. I prided myself on being an educator in my field for 17 years. And corporate told me in this job I'm in now that they want to do everything through the computer training. And I looked at the computer training. I said, this is second rate. They said, it doesn't matter. This is what corporate wants. So they're kind of removing that selling point of being a good teacher or a good instructor away from people. You're going to see more and more jobs. The last jobs to fall will be your plumbers, your construction workers, your electricians, hands-on people, trade skill people. They'll be the last to fall. And those jobs are going to go up in value. They already are. Like steel workers are getting paid now more than they ever had before. You're going to see more and more wealth going in there. But truck driving, they want to completely make that autonomous. Cab driving, Uber jobs are going to be dead in 2 to 3 years. Elon Musk has already got his autonomous taxis being run on the roads. So you'll be able to get cheap Uber rides using those. So you cut out the human being there. They'll sell it to you as safety and price, as they always do. It's always for your own good. Never forget that. That's how they're going to always sell it to you. So there's a lot of issues here with the AI, and none of it's good with these people controlling it. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that one.
Brother Yusuf, the carnivore diet is a very good diet because my husband was on that diet and his weight just melted off.
Absolutely.
He didn't have any problems with allergies, with snoring, with it just helped him so much. And everybody was like, this is too extreme. I was like, no, this is working for him. Doesn't have high blood pressure. He doesn't have that's a very good diet you were saying. Also, I wanted to add on, I was looking at something how they are printing chicken now. They're not like
Yes.
making real chicken and they're printing it and sticking it together. And then also we had came across some meat and we were looking at it in the store and they put like I I don't want to accuse them, but I felt like they put red dye inside of that meat because I was like, this is not blood. This is, and I even showed
Mhm.
my husband a difference when we went to the halal store. I said, now look at this meat. You see how rich and dark the blood is of this meat? It looks almost like maroon almost. And then you go to the other like Costco or whatever, you'll see the blood and it's like this high pink red color. And I was like, you see the difference? So I think they're playing with something with the food also.
Oh, absolutely. They use meat glues. They take cheaper cuts and scraps and they glue it inside. People have done lots of exposés on that where they stretch it out. You can see that the meat has been bonded together with some kind of a chemical. And yeah, I know what you're talking about with the blood. A lot of it looks like coloring. And they do the same thing with the fruits. They will spray like apples and things to make them red, the strawberries. I remember when I was living in Saudi, there was a video that the Saudis were circulating around from India. And why the Saudis didn't want to buy stuff from India anymore was an Indian guy with a can of spray paint was literally spray painting the strawberries before they were shipped internationally. And we're a little bit more sophisticated than that here, but that's a scam that's going on in all produce as well as meat. We don't know what we're eating, to be honest. And the carnivore, back to that point, is the fat melts off because sugar is the enemy. For years, they try to tell us fat is the enemy. You could tell how your body reacts to something is how your body wants it or what your body wants. If people will use the argument, well, the body burns sugar first. Well, the body burns alcohol first, too. Is alcohol good for your body? I think we've done enough scientific research, even without the Quran and Hadith, to tell us alcohol is not good for us. The science backs up, Allah's words as always. But alcohol is processed first because why? It's a poison. So your body is trying to get this stuff out of me. And it does the same thing with sugar. While your body stores fat, fat is for emergencies. It was a mechanism built in our bodies by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to survive periods of drought, long periods of time. We could store energy. Your body wants to burn fat for fuel. And when you get your body on the carnivore, you're basically doing that. You're having butter, you're having fatty cuts of red meat. Typically get your ground beef 75-25, 70-30. Get all of it in there. Cheese has good fat. Yogurt, fresh yogurt, full fat. And your body will start burning that fuel. That's why your husband's melted off, because now during that transition period, his body is burning excess fat that he was never touching before because you're constantly giving it sugar through carbs and through processed sugar. So your body's not working optimally. And now, I noticed a huge difference. First 2 weeks, if someone goes on that diet, you're going to get sick. You're not going to feel well. I felt horrible, right from the beginning. I felt weak and dizzy because your body is switching off of sugar and all these things to basically burning fat. Another thing with a diet is the grains. If you notice how when they want to slaughter a pig in a slaughterhouse, they want to fatten that pig up quickly to kill it as soon as possible to make the maximum amount of money on time. So what do they feed the pigs? And they feed them grain. They feed them grains because grains fattens you up, and it's like the obesity epidemic. We have buns and bread and things everywhere. Bread is a huge staple in the Western diet. Everywhere you go, it's a sub sandwich, it's a hamburger, it's a chicken sandwich, it's just constant bread. Then you couple that with the poisonous nature of our bread, all the stuff that's in them. You go to the Middle East, when I was living in Saudi, I looked at the back of the ingredients. There was only like 4 ingredients in the bread. You come here, it's a paragraph, or 2, filled with stuff that you have to Google each single one of those. You're like, oh my God, why is this in my food? So we're an unhealthy, sick, nation. And carnivore is one way of getting ourselves back, because as Muslims, we need to be optimal. I noticed that I have more motivation to pray on time and more not procrastinating anymore. Like you just don't have, because again, it's kind of like you think about a drug. When someone takes heroin or crack, they get to this level here, and all the rest of the day they're trying to catch that level. They call it chasing the dragon. You're trying to reach that same point you were when you first started the drug, but the thing is, you can't do it. It's like you're always going to need more to try to get to that level. Sugar is the same way. When you start eating your day, and these liars put in the eating cereal, breakfast cereals loaded with sugar, and giving them to kids for breakfast in the schools, all day long now, those kids are going to be constantly craving more sugar because they're not at that level. They're chasing the dragon. So snacking. People snack all the time now. They have to constantly stuff in their mouth. I talk to my coworkers in the office all the time, like, guys, do you ever stop eating? And you see me haven't ate one thing all day because I ate 3 eggs this morning. I'm fulfilled. My body has all it needs. I had 3 eggs for breakfast. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And I'll go work a whole day, outwork all of them. And they're always constantly food, chips, candy, cakes, cookies, all this stuff. And then McDonald's for lunch. And weak, tired, and just constantly craving more. We have to reimagine the way that we live. And it's an Islamic, principle. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam once said, in a famous hadith, you should have 1/3 of your stomach as air, 1/3 water, and 1/3 food. Other hadiths talking about one of the biggest challenges for the sons of Adam was his belly, his stomach. It's a killer. It's up there with drugs and alcohol as the top killers right now in society.
I was going to add too, when he started that diet, he was eating so much. And then when his body got regulated and got everything out, I would just have to feed him like 1 meal a day because
absolutely
done with. He was full. We used a lot of salt. We did a lot of eggs, like you said. We did a lot of cheese, a lot of things that did not have any carbs or anything, just animal products. He said animal product. He would do some fish too. But
fish is great. Salmon is very good on the carnivore diet. Yeah, me today, I've had 3 eggs, a couple spoons of yogurt, and 2 hamburgers, 75% fat patties by themselves, and some cheese. And I mean, I have zero desire to eat. And I always deal with my family, guys, come on, cut the snacks, cut the late night meals. I mean, this is not the way to live. And sometimes people have to learn on their own or be shown, so hopefully we lead by example, and show. Because one of the problems with the Ummah, I noticed when I moved overseas, is they love to eat. It's heavy, in the Arab cultures, me being someone who's married to an Arab. I lived it, I saw it. I mean, food and the ceremony of food with the family is a huge ritual, and it's a lot of indulgences and overeating. And I know several members of my wife's family have succumbed to early deaths because of diabetes and failed organs because of just simply the way that they ate. People think rice, it's organic. No, what rice does to your blood sugar is the same as a candy bar. It's the same thing when you eat potatoes. Get off of it as much as you can, and again, every now and then to have a cheat meal, a treat or something is going to be fine. But just go look at the origins of these diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, all various blood. You said your husband's blood pressure went fine. Mine is as well. Your blood pressure is going to drop. Your cardiovascular health is going to improve. My skin is cleaned up, tremendously. I feel like I look younger when I look in the mirror. Overall, your body weight. You feel good, you look good.
So, Pamela, because even the animals don't graze all day like we do.
How would you say, sister?
Yeah, so even the animals don't graze all day like we do.
Oh,
the animals don't do that.
No one.
Humans graze all day.
And the Prophet was fasting constantly, like long periods of time, fasting weeks. About keeping that belly because when your body is not digesting food and breaking down all this stuff, it can heal. It can focus on repairing.
Yeah. And I have one last question. Have you heard anything about the United States planning to automatically register men for the military?
That seems like that's a done deal. Yeah, it seems like that's a done deal. Yeah.
Wow. I felt kind of bad for our Muslim men, because they're part of that thing in America.
Well, absolutely. But before, I mean, it really isn't much of a difference, because when I turned 18, now I wasn't Muslim at the time. I had to do this. And if you don't do it, I mean, they'll come down on you. But Muhammad Ali, back in the 1960s, he showed the way. I mean, Muhammad Ali took him to court, and eventually he won because he used religious reasons. And we have freedom of religion in this country. And that's always a legal channel for Muslims, is that we have a freedom of religion that we can stand on in a court of law, and we can religiously, justify it with ayah from Quran and Hadith that if it's an immoral war, then we have no right to participate. It's against our religious beliefs. And so Muhammad Ali set that precedent. If people want to look up that case, it cost him his championship, the prime years of his boxing career, but he stood his ground. He refused to give in. It was a long process, but eventually he won, and he was reinstated and went on to have a prosperous career.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Walaikum salam.
I would like to bring one thing up too. I was going to bring it up when we were talking about food, but I was going to say we should really be cautious of many of the foods that they have told us the last few years was healthier for us to eat, and to eat this, to eat that. And remember when honey started becoming very popular, and you could see it all in the supermarkets, and you still can. But what I did was I started, I have a daughter who researches everything just about for a hobby, but we have learned in doing some research on many of the honeys, that the jars of honey that they have in the supermarkets are not even healthy. They're processed.
Absolutely. 100% true. We know from the Quran, excuse me, and the Messenger of Allah, so I was telling him, is that honey is from Allah. I mean, honey is a blessing. It's very nutritious. But these guys, again, like I was saying earlier, the money, when these guys are controlling it, it's going to be basically an agenda. And, most of the honey is just nothing but sugar with God knows what else. And it's not healthy for you. It really isn't. And it's really like now everything we have to research before we buy it. It's sad that it's come to that. But even something like honey that's supposed to be sacred, it's from the earth. It's a gift from Allah. It's a medicine, has healing properties, antibacterial properties, good for your sick, sore throat. Now we even have to research this. Is this even real? I remember years ago, I was reading about McDonald's, because I haven't eaten McDonald's in maybe 17 years now, that even the pickle, I was like, wow, even the pickle was fake. The pickle was like mixed with some kind of rubber ingredient or whatever. It's why the pickles are always so rubbery and perfect colored and perfect shape. It's like even the pickle, they couldn't do a normal one on that. They had to cut corners and put poison in it. The buns, I mean, these buns nowadays, if you see these hamburger buns, they sell in supermarkets or the restaurants. I mean, it's like a sugar sponge. This isn't even bread. There's like the Walmart brands are always the worst in everything. The Walmart ice cream doesn't even melt. I mean, ice cream in itself is not healthy, but if you get natural healthy ice cream, it's a little bit more healthier. But the Walmart ice cream won't even melt. It's got so many bonding agents and all kinds of stuff on it. It's like a putty, like a liquid. It turns into like this kind of slimy, like that slime the kids play with when you're young. We had it in the 80s. It's very similar to that. So, I mean, nothing right now can we trust. We have to look up everything we eat. It's crazy.
Yes, it's amazing. I never thought many of the things that are out now that are in the supermarkets, you really have to research them and see what in the world. I remember this scientist, I can't remember his name, but not too long ago, he said, before you buy something in the store, read those ingredients. And if you can't define them, you never even heard of the ingredients, don't buy it.
Absolutely. 90% of the stuff in our grocery stores, I saw this report about a year ago, about 90%, 85 to 90%, I'm just off the top of my head, is stuff that didn't even exist 50 years ago. I mean, it's a science experiment when you go in the grocery store and you walk down these aisles. It's like everything in there, except for the produce section and the meat. We've already discussed the meat, me and the sister earlier, about the glues and the dyes, and they're dyeing the meat to cover up rotted meat, perhaps, painting over the fruits, the genetically modified fruits, the rubbery bananas now that can bend like this. They have all the seeds are removed from them. It's like, and then you go to that whole, usually like in our store, all the good natural stuff's on the right side. You go to the left, it's basically everything is bad. I mean, it's all your condiments, all your cereals, your chips, your cookies and candies. Then you go down, of course, the alcohol aisles are all the way on the far left. It's just everything on that side of the store is pretty much a modern day science experiment. I mean, it's not real food, and it never has been real food for 99.9% of human history.
It's true.
SubhanAllah. I didn't watch the news today, but I noticed Kennedy is in the hot seat.
Oh, what happened with him?
I'm not sure. That's why I was saying. I was kind of asking, well, did you know?
I didn't hear anything about him.
Back. Okay, they were asking him some questions about something. I think they're trying to get rid of him. I think they're trying to put somebody else in his place. But I just caught a glimpse of it. I just thought maybe we have known about it. Maybe
all they'd have to do to silence him is show pictures of what they did to his uncle, and then that pretty much clear it up.
Yeah. SubhanAllah. Okay.
They executed him in public and blamed a guy who had nothing to do with it, and a phony story, and got away with it, saying a bullet could cause 7 wounds.
Okay. We got a question here from YouTube. Why doesn't the United States invest more in improving public transportation for ordinary people?
Well, I mean, good question. Again, these guys, they don't care. As I talked about with Zohar Mamdani earlier, it's about stealing the wealth of the people. It's not about giving anything back. True tax dollars, and that's the lie they sell you in schools, that, oh, your tax is for all these great services and all these great things that we benefit from. And sometimes, our roads, obviously, law enforcement, schools, public schools, even though they're not very good anymore. But if you look at how much of our money goes to Israel, goes to all these projects I've covered on this platform numerous times. I highlighted a school in Pakistan they said they were building, and they had 20 million or whatever it was for that school, and only 100,000 actually went to school. It was a political bribe. Someone from Pakistan had given a politician money. So in turn, he gave them 20 million in taxpayer money, and they were supposed to build a school, and only 100,000 went to school. The other 19.999 million went to him. And when all that stuff is going on, I mean, tax dollars have just become a racket to steal. I mean, we could have a world like you used to see in the Jetsons cartoons. I mean, the technology is out there. I mean, we would have a fantasy world that we couldn't imagine if our tax dollars actually were not stolen in the way that they are. But as long as there's no oversight and there's no transparency, there's no accountability, because a politician is not accountable for stealing. What's going to happen to him? None of his other politician buddies are going to prosecute him because they're doing the same thing. So he's just going to get voted out. He's going to go be on the board somewhere of a company making more money there, probably than he made even in Congress. It's like there's no deterrent for these people. And until this system creates something to do that, you're never going to see good public transportation. You're never going to see all the type of stuff that this country deserves, with how much money we're giving up out of our salaries every year. I mean, these crooks take, I was like, it's in the tens of thousands of dollars from me every single working year. I'm giving up massive amounts of money to them and seeing nothing in return other than, I said, the clean roads, which don't come from my income tax. They come from the property taxes I pay on my vehicles.
I have another question here from Brother Ahmad, and he's saying, he's asking, do you have any information on Cuba? Because he saw in the news situations that's very bad, and the lack of electricity, food, just shortage due to American sanctions. He says, I never understood how Cuba is treated in the United States. It's such a small nation. That's more like imperialist mindset, he's saying.
Well,
It's an
let's
imperialistic
understand that
mindset.
question. Very good question. Let's go back
Mhm.
to what Cuba was before Castro got in. Cuba was basically a jewel of the Caribbean area there. I mean, Cuba had resorts. It was a playground for the rich. And it was also an outpost for a lot of gun moving and drug moving operations that came from South America into the United States and from the United States down. Usually drugs came up, guns went down. The guns came down to get the right cartels in power. So therefore you'd have all kinds of deals, with the US on the drug trade, through the CIA, obviously. And when Castro came around and took it over, this stuff stopped. And that's why in the early 1960s, they wanted him out so bad. And then you have the Cuban Missile Crisis, where they were armed by the Soviets, basically to protect themselves from the United States aggression. They had a massive program called Operation Mongoose, where they were going to train Cuban exiles to overthrow Castro. And these Cuban exiles were left without military cover in what they call the Bay of Pigs. One of the many reasons that they took out Kennedy. Kennedy made a lot of people angry in a very short period of time. So since that point, they realized that they can't take Cuba out necessarily militarily because of international concern and pressure. So the best way to do it is just starve them out and place sanctions on them. And that's what they've done. And I predict in the next 5 to 10 years, Cuba will fall. And it'll be the same thing with Venezuela. Not saying Castro was good, because see, a lot of people who are in my country, my culture, will say, oh, you support Castro. Absolutely not. Castro is a thug. He is a tyrant. But what we got here is two thugs fighting each other, so to speak. Evil can fight evil. Good can't fight good. Good will always compromise with good. Good will always work it out with good. Good has to fight evil, but evil can fight evil. And so that doesn't mean because we're saying what the United States did was wrong, that all of a sudden Castro was, a Sahaba member or something. No, not by any means. Castro is far from anything good. His regime has been very brutal, on the Cuban people, but that's the reason they want him out, to summarize exactly what he stopped, because Castro is hungry for his own power. And he wasn't going to allow his country to be a satellite area, a playground for the rich, and to take part in all the drug trade and the gun trade that was going on. Used to be big bases from Louisiana down to Cuba, down to South America. Drugs would come up to Cuba. Drugs would then come in through Florida. So you see all those famous Scarface, all these Miami drug movies. We're talking about how the coke would get distributed from Colombia. I mean, Scarface, the director, put the scenes in that film to let the American people know that the CIA was involved in this from way back when. That the CIA was getting the drug cartels protection. How else? I mean, cocaine ain't coming in somebody's pocket. Not the amount of cocaine that gets in this country. It's not coming in backpacks like the stereotype is you got the illegals. They're coming across the border. That does happen on a small scale. But we're talking about cargo freight of cocaine, shipping containers. How are they getting cleared through customs? How are they getting in here? And again, Cuba was part of that, if you go back to pre-Castro.
Alhamdulillah. And this is informative. The brother's also saying, relating to public transportation, he says he's seen on the subways in New York City, United States, and compared it with systems in Shanghai, Beijing, and Shenzhen. He says the difference is big. Chinese cities are cleaner, more modern, and have higher security.
He's right. I've been there, to UAE especially. When I went on the metro in Dubai, I was just in awe. We have way more wealth than they do, obviously. We have more oil than them. Plus, we have way more fertile land. We have way more goods to sell. It's a disgrace what these scum politicians are allowing to be done to this country. We should have top of the line for the economy that we have. Top of the line. But we're spending money on Israel. We're spending money on illegals. We're spending money on schools that don't get built. We're spending money on transgender operas being performed in Brazil. It's all money laundering. I don't think the opera ever took place, God forbid. We could have so much better. But another thing with America, too, is that Dubai has law and order. That's another component that we're missing. When I went to the Dubai metro, one of the first things I noticed was they had a sign up there. if you throw your gum or you spit on the ground, it was like 5,000 dirhams, like 1,500, some huge number. I'm telling out of memory. I may be somebody who's living in UAE to correct me on that, but I remember it being a kind of high number. And I was like, there you go. That's how you keep it clean. So we get the politicians, we'll get it built. But then after you get it built, you've got to keep it clean. And America doesn't even have the will to do that anymore. You go to American Subway, there's like feces on the ground, dirty baby diapers. There's like zero accountability for the people to behave decent, where the UAE has zero tolerance for that. And that's why when you go to Dubai, it's so clean. You know, they don't allow this stuff. In Singapore and China, you see all these images. I've seen so many videos. It's like, wow, why are we not having that? You know, because again, we have crooks and who are stealing our money and getting us to focus on trivial issues instead of worrying about who's robbing the house.
I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
When the little orange man first started doing the immigration things, he started sending people all the way over to Venezuela, right?
Which one are you talking about?
The little orange president. He started doing the immigration. He started saying that everybody that they captured or considered criminals, they sent to Venezuela, right?
They were going to do El Salvador. El Salvador, Bukele down there ran he really cleaned the country up with tough prison. So they were going to send a lot of these guys, and they got permission to do that with a gang recently down to El Salvador.
All right. My point is, then why would you go ahead afterwards and make a deal with them and then turn around and decide you want to declare war on that country? Because you sent all these criminals. All they have to do is talk to these criminals and say, do you want to join this war? Do you want to get back at the United States? Have he any idea of what stupidity he had done?
Well, Venezuela was, again, how these guys are always one step ahead of the public. If you notice, Trump went to Venezuela first before he went to Iran. Why did he do that? Because Venezuela, although the oil is hard to process, it's not as easy to process as Gulf oil. It still was a gold mine of oil. And Trump got puppets in there in that government and seized basically their oil assets. So what happened was when Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz and was charging $2 million per boat, you saw on the navigation maps massive amounts of tankers were coming where? They were coming to the newly crowned Gulf of America. They were coming to take part in the American oil supply. America is going to be the #1 supplier of oil in the world. So seizing Venezuela before Iran was a very strategic military move that a lot of people didn't see coming. But when the Strait of Hormuz thing happened, it became very clear to me. And then I saw the beginning or the end of last week, they were showing the maps of how the tankers have increased coming into the United States, getting their oil and gas from us. Huge strategic move by them. Nothing they do is an accident. Even when they appear to make mistakes, the mistakes were on purpose. These people are very, very intelligent, very ahead of the game, despite how they may come across on camera. Trump is just, again, I say he's a salesman. He's a WWE persona. The people that had him do this are the ones that have the real brains. We never see them. They're camera shy. You're not going to see the individuals who really call the shots. They're not going to be on television. Donald Trump is just that promoter, that guy to come out there and sell you the agenda and put you back to sleep.
So basically, he's just a puppet. They just pulling his strings.
Oh, absolutely. Biden was a puppet. Biden didn't even know he was in the White House the last few years. He was so senile. I mean, Obama was a puppet. Bill Clinton was a puppet. Bush was a puppet. All these guys. The real leaders of the world, they're behind the cameras. That's why the agenda never changes. It may slightly appear to change, but it never changes. The course is always the same because the hidden hand behind the shaitan and then behind the shaitan's earthly minions who run this global world order, they're in control of everything. That's why you'll see, the synchronized agenda on COVID, all the nations did the exact same draconian oppressive tactics during COVID at the exact same time. You go and you look at every destructive policy, they all pass them almost universally at the exact same time. So again, it's the synchronization, globally that we see. And there's only a few countries which aren't a part of the world banking system. North Korea, Iran, Syria was on that list. Gaddafi and Libya were on that list. We know what happened to him. We know what happened to Syria. They have their puppet regime in place there now. And we're seeing Iran's going to slowly be, Castro, of course, in Cuba, we talked about earlier as well. These are countries that are not a part of the system. And you're seeing the dominoes in Venezuela all falling one by one to where pretty much it seems like all that's going to be left here in a half decade is going to be North Korea.
Yeah, what was appalling to me was Iranians stated that they had bombs at the strait under the water, but yet ships were coming through who were paid to come through. That was crazy.
All
I mean, they really think we're stupid, you know?
All theater.
Yeah, all theater.
And I was telling you earlier how much money was made off the ups and downs of this. Billions of dollars of wealth was transferred from those people. Like I said, they want that 500,000 a year guy to that 2 million a year guy. They want to erode that class permanently. They want to basically pretty much have the billionaire groups, and then you're going to have basically everybody else is poor. And they're just doing everything they can to slowly take the wealth of those people. Those are the people that always face the brunt of the taxes. When these people like Zohran Mamdani talk about taxing people 50%, well, it's those people. It's never the Donald Trump class. No way. Those guys have so many ways. You know, I remember when Donald Trump was debating Hillary, it was a funny moment because there was some truth being said there and all the lies. Was that Hillary was trying to grandstand about, you know, Trump not paying taxes and all these things. And Trump came back with this clever response. He's like, yeah, I don't pay taxes because I'm using the same laws that you passed to make sure I don't pay taxes. And it was this funny moment in the debate because it's 100% true. Here's two people who both are responsible for this system arguing about it. One of them is in the Senate when it passes. The other one is benefiting from it. And he's openly telling, yeah, I cheated the taxes, of course, because you put the loopholes in there that allowed me to do that. All these guys have so much resources to find ways to move money around to avoid this.
That's so true. And Trump even said he's making money. We're making money.
Oh, absolutely.
He said that on the
news.
Made a lot of
it.
Money.
They made a lot of it, especially the oil traders. I don't trade in oil. I'm more of a crypto person, but the oil, well, I mean, it was a massive amount of money. Because if you try to trade against these guys, you're going to lose. The average day trader, 99% of them end up broke. The only people that can win in their world is the long-term investors. I ignore their moves and I buy low, like I said earlier. I bought a lot of stuff during this time, as I usually do. When I see it go red, I just start buying because that's the time to buy. When you start seeing the phony Muslim online guys telling you World War III and the phony political pundits on Twitter, oh, it's going to go down, it's going down, you know it's going up. It's the same game every time. And then when they tell you, oh, it's going to keep going up forever, this is an unbreakable economy, you know it's going to drop. That's one of my main purposes on this platform is I want all the brothers and sisters here to just really start seeing the world with new eyes. So when you see these people say these things, you really understand why they're saying them. It's all a system. Social media is no different than CNN, Fox News, any of that stuff. They're all actors. Like I mentioned earlier, the Sneeko individual, he's out there talking about killing Jews with a bunch of young Muslims. You know, he's never going to get prosecuted because he works for them. But he's going to encourage other young Muslims to get brash and get themselves in trouble and do irreparable damage to their lives. You know, while he's going to continue to make millions off exploiting them.
I got a question. I said, what I listened to something on, I forgot what it was, but the Chinese governor or Chinese president said that if the United States were to come over, that they had a hydrogen bomb.
What China said?
Yes.
I didn't hear that, but China and America have this, what we call in the animal kingdom term, like a symbiotic relationship, which means they both need each other. They're both dependent on each other in the global world order. That's always kind of the care they dang, oh, China and America, it's going to be the war of all worlds. China sells, I have to get the stat on it, it's over half of their stuff to us. We need them to make it. They need us to buy it. It's like both completely mutually depend on each other. And then that's why it's always funny when Trump comes out and talks tough on China, you know, then nothing, of course, is going to happen. You know, China will talk tough on Trump. Russia's the same way. They're all mutually dependent on each other. They can't thrive without the other one. So if there was a mutual war, both countries would be destroyed. I mean, who's going to make our goods? Our economy would completely collapse. For the Chinese, who's going to buy your goods? Their economy will completely collapse. Americans are addicted to cheap Chinese junk, and the Chinese are addicted to cheap petrodollars.
Now, I have a question on that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think people will buy electric cars, like since the issue of Iran and China have more electric cars than USA? Do you think people will buy more electric cars?
That's where it's going, because they don't want us to drive. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier with AI and the universal basic income. I've heard them openly in some of their conferences. They talk about having like a system like Uber, where when you want to go to work, you call an autonomous vehicle to take you. They want to get rid of private ownership of the vehicles. There's not enough metals, to make enough batteries for every single person in this country to have an electric car. There's just not enough materials out in the strip mines. It's very problematic. And the thing that's the most scary about owning electric vehicles is that they literally can turn you off. Like Elon Musk can turn off every single Tesla he's ever sold. That is too much power. I don't have an electric car, and I'm probably not going to get one because of that reason. Plus, they have microphones in them. Elon Musk let this slip when the crazy leftists were going around and vandalizing Teslas when Trump was running against against Harris. And Elon Musk is like, we'll switch on the microphones and the cameras. So he's tipping his hat that he has the ability to do that. So needless to say, if the ability is there, they're going to use it. So it's spying on you, could be recording your speech. And then, of course, like I said, they can just turn it off. Where if they don't like what you say on social media or you say an opinion, enter the keyboard and there goes your driving privileges. It's frightening, the kind of power that people are going to be willingly conceding. But the technology is good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, electric cars with oil, they're cleaner in maintenance. They last long. The charge is cheaper overall for you to get your fuel, I should say, or your energy to travel. There's a lot of good things in them. But it's, again, these people who are controlling it have nothing but sinister intentions, it seems. And that's me going by their own words, not mine.
Alhamdulillah. If there are no other questions, we can probably wrap it up, brother.
Yep, Sister Layla's going live in 10 minutes.
Yeah, she will. Mm-hmm.
One more.
Yeah, it was very good. We went over an hour today. Very good time.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, when you brought up electric cars, where I live, and I live in Los Angeles, California, we see them everywhere now. Mm-hmm. Everywhere. And I mean, even in poor neighborhoods, we see electric cars and big parking lots that used to cater to stores like that Walmart or, wherever. The parking areas are almost consumed by, say, electric car only.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know what you're talking about. I've seen that. I live in the South, and here in the South, I mean, you'll see a few, excuse me, a few of them, like 3 or 4, and not even every place, like the mall. The mall here has like 3 or 4 of them. Other than that, you'll never see a charging station for these things. But in California, yeah, you're correct. It's like everywhere. There's massive amounts of these.
Yes, Target was one of the stores that I go to regularly. They cleared out that they used to charge people when they came to the store to park, but that was all gone. One day we said, "Where are all the places what we had to use to pay to park?" They were all gone. And then about a month later, we saw electric car parking only.
And what's funny about the scam to show you how these guys always are going to sell a lie as something just so good for you. We're doing it for you. You know, in the end of the day, it's like it blows up after a very quick analysis. They claim that this is about the earth because they want your children to grow up in a beautiful world and all this nonsense that the left says. But where are they getting the energy from to power those electric cars, to charge those batteries? They're getting it from fossil fuels, or so-called fossil fuels. They're getting it from natural gas. They're getting it from the same thing they are telling you basically is damaging your environment and wrecking your world. So your electricity is directly generated from that. They're not getting it from solar. You know, these charging stations are getting them from generators. So they're on one hand telling you, oh, we're trying to save the planet and all this fun stuff. But then at the same time, the fuel source is exactly the same. Now, you don't have the actual smog and all the different gases coming off the cars and the road, so it's a little bit better there. But at the end of the day, the consumption will just go up because you're going to need more electricity to charge these things. When everybody, or at least a third of the population starts using them, it's going to be massive amounts of energy.
Even in Pakistan, they're using electric cars from China, like BYD and all those companies from China. Like I have seen a lot of even electric bikes. They're investing in electric bikes.
Yeah, China is way ahead of us in this. Their electric cars, I saw some in a video, were amazing. The features that they had in them, it's like you're in like your own room. I mean, you got these digital screens all over the entire console, all this, smart features on them and things like that. So the bikes, all the different portable transportations. I mean, it's coming.
In my neighborhood, Pepco, which is the electric company, minimum $400 a month to run your lights and TVs and PCs or whatever.
Oh, wow.
Everybody's complaining. It's just really, it's amazing. Amazing.
We're going to have like what they do in Syria here soon if we don't have a kind of, I don't want to say a violent revolution, you want to say that on camera, but unless people rise up, because like in Syria, they ration the electricity. So you have people basically are allowed a certain amount of time per day. I think they're conditioning us in the next 10 years to start doing that because it's going to be so expensive that you can't even run things. I mean, my electric bill's doubled and energy consumption has relatively stayed the same. And they give you that little nice, in order to provide you the best customer service possible, we're raising your rates. No, you're not providing me a better experience. You're ripping us off.
And I'm telling you, I live in California, and that you already commented on how extremely high and unaffordable everything is here.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you that it's just utilities, like light bill or whatever, is so extreme.
Yeah.
Is it because of the databases?
What'd you say, sister?
Is it because of those databases they're trying to set up for AI?
Well, AI consumes a tremendous amount of power.
So the cost is going off to us, not those companies who are setting it up, right?
Well, they're going to make us pay for it as they always do.
We'll have to pay for it and the water because of these databases.
Like Trump just trolled his voters again with it. He announced tariff holiday on the 20th. This is example of what we're talking about here, what they do. Is that Trump was like, big tariff refunds coming. And all these people are like, yeah, we're going to get money. No. He's given the corporations the money back. So these corporations took the tariffs on, raised the prices on us, and then Trump is going to give them the tariff money back. So they got to raise the prices on us for free, basically. They got their tariff money back. They made double. And this is a slap in the face to the American people from this president. Openly, we're having a tariff holiday on the 20th for all these guys, though, not for you. And it's the same thing with the energy. I drive home every day the same way from work every day. I see this massive solar farms are everywhere now. What is that power being used for? Because the sun is free. After you build the infrastructure, the energy is free. I see they're covering some of these massive half a mile long fields of these things. And it's like, where is it being used? I don't see any benefit, myself from it at all. But yet I see these solar farms being built everywhere.
Well, they were trying to build one right across from where we were, and everybody protested. So they, put the plans on the back burner. So I don't know if they're gonna eventually gonna put it up there. But everybody was complaining about it, so they stopped. But I don't know if they're gonna do it or not. I hope not.
Well, they're very unsightly, those things. And again, this is all greed. I mean, one of the first things the Zionists do, and I covered this a little bit in my presentation I did on the Synagogue of Satan, where I showed how they use the banking system to slowly put everybody in debt, and then the government sell the resources to them. And one of the signs of that is the privatization of energy and utility. And we bought everything privatized in this country. It's like you started seeing this gouging has been going on nonstop ever since, because these are private companies. They don't have public interest at heart. All their interest is we spent this, we made this. You can't have, these things being in the hands of private companies. You just can't, because it's ripe for this. They're just going to gouge you, and there's no stopping it. They never bring prices down. They never do. It's always going to be up, because they've got to return to their investors. They can't go to their investors next year and say, we took a 25% loss. They only have to go up. And it's a death sentence for us, because when's the end of it? $500 a month, like you see in Europe, $600 a month. When are people going to hit the breaking point?
I got a question. What are they going to do with electric cars and things like that, the electric bikes and all that stuff, if somebody decide they want to do one of those electric magnetic pulse things?
What is that exactly?
Electronic magnetic pulse. It disrupts the electricity, or disrupts like your alternator in your car, your computer in your car. And you got all these electronics. You got all this electronics that's going to go out. What are they going to do with all those electric cars then?
Well, that's the electric cars are a total scam. As I highlighted, they can cut you off willingly. Every electric car manufacturer has an off button. They can literally disable you. Excuse me. Elon Musk openly admits this with his Teslas, and he pretty much has a monopoly on them in the United States for the most part. And he can just cut you off. It's like you're a bad boy. You made them mad. Well, you're not going to drive today. You better get in line. We'll cut your digital credits when they go to universal basic income, so you can't eat. It's ultimate control grid that they're planning. But they're going to have Elon Musk go on Twitter and sell it as this is an era of abundance, that people are never going to have it better. It's the golden era of humanity. I got some land to sell you in Saudi Arabia if you believe that one.
So when you talk about they cut off your funds for eating and all that stuff, is that the one where they talking about putting chips in people, and your chip register where you add how much money you make, how much money in your account? Everybody is like walking around with a chip, and it'll tell you if you got this much money and if you can afford to do.
Absolutely. The chip is the last step. Before the chip, they'll give you a card, or you'll do it on your phone. And then they'll get you conditioned. People will love it. And then, it'll be the thing of, what if you forgot your phone? So how convenient. Boom. You scan it. They'll get people to want it. They always want you to want your slavery. They always want you to want the erosion of your rights. So you're going to beg them for it. Like, oh, yeah, that's going to be great. All I have to do is go to Food Line. I can pay like this. But of course, they'll start off.
I noticed that now Meta has the glasses that you can wear, and you can constantly stay on social media all the time.
Yeah, that is quite frightening. If you've seen these young people nowadays, I call it TikTok brain. Some of these people ages 18 to 24, they have no ability to focus for more than 30 seconds to a minute. It's like their whole life is shorts. Everything is just instant dopamine. It's like a 15-second mindless video, another 15-second mindless video. Like, we had a lot of these young people try to come into our work, and we try to train them to run machines, and they just can't even pay attention. It's like they're constantly drifting. It's like listening to someone explain something to them is just difficult, because they're used to all this social media, 15-second posts, these 15-second videos. It's really, their brain is so sped up that it can't even slow down to learn anymore. And it's frightening. They're going to put it up here, and you'll be seeing it everywhere you go as well.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. This was a great class, brother. It's 9:30. We need to wrap it
Yes.
up, people, so that we got people waiting for the Q&A from Sister Layla. So alhamdulillah. Have your questions ready again for next week, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Everybody have a good night.
Well,
And thank you.
Why?
Shukran.
Shukran.
Shukran.